My name is Robert E. Willis. I've been a motivational coach for 25 years. I've been a career counselor for over 17 years, 6 years in the United States Marine Corps. But as of late, about 5.5 years ago, I became a veteran representative for the state of Minnesota. And so now I count in my years as a JROTC. I entered the military at 14 years old. And so I've got this military mindset. It was military tactics, strategies, the art of war, learning how to shoot, all that stuff at 14 in all 4 years. We had 5 days a week in uniform, white glove inspection on Mondays. But a lot of what this has done, my experience, not only just from high school, but also serving in the Marine Corps, is the sense of community. Right now, my current role, I am an employer engagement specialist with the state of Minnesota. My role is to reach out to companies that are out there and see what I can do to help them. Prior to that, I worked as a veteran representative with the state of Minnesota. My role was to reach out to businesses and see if they were interested in hiring veterans. Absolutely loved my job. Getting our brothers and sisters employment was right up my alley. Prior to that, I worked for a company called Project for Pride in Living, PPL. And over a 6-year time frame, I taught and graduated 30 banking classes. Each one of these classes had up to 15 students, and the class itself was 6 hours long a day and 3 weeks long. And these are all 30 of my graduate classes from the banking course. And I put them on my wall to remind me of what I've done with 6 years of my life. I got my mantra from another career counselor a few years ago, and she said something I thought was absolutely remarkable. She said, "Those who serve must serve. They have to serve. The only way in which they can be happy is by serving." And even though I don't wear the uniform anymore, I still believe it is my civic responsibility to help those people around me. The philosophy of finding your career. I have not worked since 1996 when I found out the secret that if you are passionate about what you do, it's not work. Stress goes down, joy goes up, you live longer, you get promoted faster, all these wonderful things if you're passionate about what you do. And that's what this presentation is about. I tell people if they're interested in it, it takes about an hour, a minimum of an hour, and I want them to be in a quiet place where they can take notes. It's highly important. What I tell people is I'm going to give 85 words. I'm going to speak 85 words. You're going to write down 7 words, but when you review it, you are going to get all 85 words behind or back. And that's an incredible thing about it. But one of the things I want to talk about is some of those key pieces of this, because I like to help people out, is whenever these folks started their very first day of class, one of the things I gave them was this simple secret. What are you prepared to do? I gave this to them in this lunar blue color so that they could put it someplace on the refrigerator, on the back of the front door, on the bathroom mirror. I had one student, he put it on the ceiling, so it was the very first thing, his very first thought in the morning. And I told them at first they're not going to have any answers for this. They're going to be asking themselves, what am I prepared to do? What am I prepared to do? And they won't know, but in time, they will. But it's something to help them get ahead. And I recommend for people, I've had the sign up since the early 90s, 93, because when I started seeing that I have the ability to change the course of my life, I possess that, and that's a very fortunate thing. I developed a presentation called a moment of pause. And in this presentation, I would ask students 2 major things, or I would inform them about 2 major things. The first thing is the secret to finding the perfect job for you, which I will share with you. Find something you love to do, learn as much about it as you can, then find someone to pay to do it. I love to run my mouth, and the state of Minnesota pays me to do it. It's a great match. So that was my presentation, my very first book, A Moment of Pause. I am the quote meister. I absolutely love quotes. It's a phenomenal thing. I heard my very first quote when I was about 11 years old, and the movie Mahogany came out. Billy D. Williams said, "Success is nothing unless you have someone you love to share it with." And I thought, oh man, that's so cool. So I memorized it. And now I'm called the quote meister because I love quotes. Got quotes all over the place. I've got a tablet downstairs next to my bed or next to my TV. If I hear a quote, I'm going to pause the movie and write it down. It's awesome. So it made natural sense that my second book would be quotes from Robert E. where these are quotes that I've developed over the past 25 years as a motivational coach that I've repeatedly told people to help them out, whenever situation they were in. I wrote a book in 2018 that was my entire tour in the Marine Corps. And it was the 6 years, and I came out with it. It's called GGMC. But when I wrote it, it wasn't quite where I wanted it to be. I spoke with a motivational coach earlier this year, has been doing this for 37 years. And there were two major questions that he asked me. And the first one was, what are you waiting for? And I've been waiting to edit this book because I wanted more to it. Because at the end of the story, I'm getting out of the Marine Corps, and you think lives happily ever after. Not so. I struggled for at least 3 years after I get out of the Corps. And this talks about those struggles and why I became a motivational coach and why I became a career counselor. I'm a second generation career counselor, meaning my mother did this work before I did. But what I also did is I added all kind of photos to it and all kind of different things of my life. And it goes up to the end of June of this year when I published it on my daughter's birthday, June 27th. But it talks about the struggles that we go through in life, things that happen. Here's a secret that I like to share with people. Have you ever heard that thing called a midlife crisis? A lot of people have. It's usually traveling to Europe or they're getting a new sports car or something like that. I don't believe in the concept of midlife crisis. I believe we're always in crisis. We just learn how to resolve them. So what was a crisis in my 20s is no longer a crisis now. I have students come up to me and they're like, oh my gosh, I have my electricity turned off. Well, did you pay the bill? No, I got these other things first. Manage your money, pay your bill first. If you don't want that to happen again, that's what you got to do. How do I know? Because I've had my electricity turned off when I was in my 20s, and you resolve that. You pay that bill first. But we're always going through crisis. And sometimes things that happen to us, such as a pandemic layoff, we cannot predict that. So we have to learn how to work around that. But one of the things that got me started in 2001 as a motivational speaker, my oldest daughter was absolutely struggling at her high school. And so I took a $14,000 cut in salary to go work at her school because she said it was the principals, it was the teachers, it was the other students. And when I found out, it wasn't the principals, it wasn't the teachers, it wasn't the other students, it was my daughter. She thought high school was designed to go out and have a good time and have fun, what have you. And that's a portion of it. But what high school is designed to do is to give you those basic skills necessary to market yourself, the most basic of skills. I saw something in 1999 that absolutely changed the entire course of my life, and that was the movie The Matrix. Yes, The Matrix, not the second, third, or fourth one, what have you, but the original one. That is the best training film for high school students I've ever seen. Take all the martial arts aside, take away all of the gunplay, and just look at the words. What I did for my fourth book, Inside the Matrix, The Power of Choice, is I took 100 quotes from that book or that movie and put it into a text to help people become the one. In the movie The Matrix, Keanu Reeves became the one when he learned Kung Fu, when he learned how to shoot guns, and at the end he learned how to fly. In real life, you become the one when you don't have to work. You do what you do because you love doing it and you're passionate about it. And that's the way you don't have to work in life. The second thing I wanted those students to understand when I went out presenting to all these high schools was the concept of common sense. I'd be in an auditorium, 500, 600 students, what have you, and I'd ask somebody, do they have a definition for common sense? And student would raise their hand and I have them stand up and they would usually say something along the lines of, common sense is basically stuff that everybody should know. And I would ask the crowd, does everybody agree with that? And people would be nodding. And then I'll tell them my belief system. There is no such thing as common sense. It's a myth. It's a legend. It does not exist. There's no set amount of information that's intuitive to all people. What we do have, however, is something called experience. Experience starts from day one and goes all the way up to today and will continue on. Now, some people might say, touching a hot stove, well, that's common sense not to. But at some point in time, you were 1 or 2 years old, your parent guardian told you not to do that, and you went, ow, that's hot. Now it's common sense. So I tell this to people, writing a resume, learning how to interview, finding your career is not common sense. People have to learn how to do this. And I get this a lot of times when I'm working with veterans that come out and they're like, well, I know how to do it all. I don't need any help. Help that other person that wasn't in the military or did something else, what have you. But we all have to learn how to market ourselves. And that's a phenomenal thing. Learning how to do that, that's what makes the difference between a job and a career. In a job from 9 to 5, at 9:01, people check out. If you're not interested in anything else, that's the job. And there's nothing wrong with having a job. But if you want to find out what you're meant to do, that's when you start researching it, figuring out. One of my superheroes is Abraham Maslow in his hierarchy of needs. He's like, he could be one of the Avengers as far as I'm concerned, with the cape going and the boots and all that stuff. But he created this thing that looks like a triangle or a pyramid, and it's got 5 different levels on it. On the first level is our physiological needs. We need to eat, we need to sleep, we need liquid. The second level up is our safety needs. That way, when we have our safety needs, we have a door that we can lock, an apartment, a house, so we can feel safe at night. Getting reliable transportation to get around, and of course, having employment to fund all this lifestyle. Now, if you don't have your physiological needs met, if you're starving, you can't hold down a job. The middle one is belongingness. And this is when we get married, we have kids, we start a family, we join the bowling team, we sing in the church or choir or synagogue, or what have you. We join the military, whatever it is, we belong to something larger than ourselves. Now, most people stay there, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to find out what you're meant to do, go to the next level, and that's our esteem level. That esteem level is something that helps us build ourselves. When we're in job search, when we're looking for something, we're stressed about something, we've got all these monkeys on our shoulder. So the second thing my students did, or the second thing I had them do every day, was to say out loud 5 times, I am awesome. And they would giggle and look around. What? You want us to talk to ourselves? And I'd be like, yes. In fact, that's exactly what I want you to do. When we're in that stress of job search or whatever it might be, we don't always hear those words, we're awesome. So not only are we saying them, but we're hearing them, and it's vibrating through our entire body. Sometimes our husbands, our wives, our family, the friends, the dog aren't giving us what we need to build up our self-esteem. When I started out these programs, I told you the placement rate was 35%. When I looked at the curriculum, I saw it had things like customer service, professionalism. It had how to deal with difficult customers, but it lacked in the ideal of the development of self-confidence. Self-confidence is our belief in ourselves. And it also did not have the ability to educate people on the power of self-esteem. Self-esteem is our belief in our abilities. And so when these students knew that they could do this, they didn't wish, want, hope, or believe they could do it. They knew they could do it. It changed how they felt about themselves. At the end of the 3 weeks, they were just all excited about it. They knew they were awesome. We have something that we call a comfort zone that people get into. And in that comfort zone, we're doing things, we're staying in a job that we shouldn't stay in, or we are underpaid, or we're unemployed, but we're comfortable, what have you. And I encourage people to get out of that comfort zone into the fear zone. The fear zone is that area that you take risk. You're not confident about yourself, but that's when people put in applications for jobs they're interested in. And some folks, they get a no thank you email, they run right back into that comfort zone and they stay there. But if you can get comfortable in the fear zone, that'll change things. You learn how to send out those applications and you deal with these rejections, because the truth is they're not rejecting you. They're finding somebody else that's more qualified for the position. So don't take it personally. So if we're comfortable in that fear zone, then we go into the learning zone. And in the learning zone, that's when we learn new concepts. We learn different ideals, different ways of thinking, processing information. Once we get comfortable in that learning zone, then we get into the growth zone. And that's when we self-actualize. And that is that last tip on the, Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That self-actualization is when we find out what we're meant to do. But keep in mind, this happens several times in life. As we mature, grow, get new information, that happens. Learning how to market yourself and learning how to get out into the world is an important thing, because a third of our life is spent working. 1/3 is sleeping, got to do that. Second one is going socializing, having kids, bowling, whatever it might be. But a third of our life is spent working. And if you are not excited and just charged up with what you do, then you're not going to have a more plentiful life. One of the quotes from the movie The Matrix, and I'll give my interpretation afterwards. This is Morpheus. The Matrix is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out the window, when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that's been pulled down over your eyes to blind you from the truth that you are a slave. You were born into bondage. You were born into a prison you cannot see or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. And then I go on to tell people, we are in a prison that we have to work. We have to make money, to have a place to live, to drive a vehicle, to have fun vacations, to have a bicycle, whatever it is. We need to pay for that. And if you're spending your life working for somebody else, doing something you are not passionate about, that is a life of servitude. And I try to get people to understand that concept. If you love what you do it for free. 2 days ago on Saturday, I gave a veteran my presentation, The Philosophy of Finding Your Career. I'm not going to get paid for that. And it doesn't matter. If I empower that veteran to go out there and find a career path where that veteran can one day say, I haven't worked since such and such a date, I've done my job. And that's what it is to do service to people. It's not just helping somebody out, it's empowering. Now, we all help people in different ways. Some people you don't help, and I get that, different things. But again, for me, it's my civic responsibility as United States Marine, as a veteran, as a citizen. It is my responsibility to help the people that are around me.